Yes, this covers the coastline of England and Wales. Similar deal could be in place down the line covering the coastline of Scotland. The government hopes that this entity investment vehicle, for that's what it really is, will be in profit in around 5 years' time. It's got 8.3 billion across the lifetime of the Parliament. That money largely coming, appropriately enough, perhaps from a windfall tax of the oil and gas companies. Now, 8.3 billion might seem a large amount of money, and of course it is in and of itself, but don't forget, not long ago the Labour Party was promising 28 billion every year for investment in green energy. So that's how things are realigned, perhaps. Now, the idea is that 8.3 billion sea core money, perhaps, would attract global investment of anything up to 60 billion into this vital new sector. But will it? High-vis politics, all right. GB Energy, Labour's big idea. Signing a deal today between it and the Crown Estates for major offshore wind farm expansion. That could power, they say, 20 million homes, enriching the taxpayer.
A publicly owned energy company making money for the taxpayer, creating the next generation of good jobs and taking Putin's boot off our throat once and for all.
The opposition says it's a gimmick and a gamble.
What they seem to be doing is subsidising the riskiest parts of energy companies' investments, and these are mature energy companies, so it's multi-million-pound companies, and putting that risk on the taxpayer, so they will wear the risk if it all goes wrong.
For a big idea, this GB Energy thing remains a bit opaque somehow. A new boss for it announced today, but it's more enabler, investor, encourager than actual manufacturer. Think of Great British Energy as a political and financial honeypot there to attract global investment into renewable energy across the UK, a green industrial revolution. The politics, it offers stability, a government with a massive majority. You know who the minister is going to be next week, next month, possibly even next year. The finance, it has over 8 billion of public money across the course of this Parliament and all the connections for inward renewable investment in the energy sector. So the pitch, come and join us. What we don't know yet, of course, is how many will and how much they'll bring. Well, so much for offshore, where you won't see the benefits for the best part of a decade. This solar array in East Anglia took less than 3 months to put in.
It's a business. I mean, it's not a no-brainer.
No. The farmer who did it says planning isn't the biggest obstacle. It's upgrading the national grid, which is imperative.
It's archaic, the system, so to build a solar farm is one thing, but if you can't export the power and the grid haven't got the capabilities, you've got no solar farm, you've got no energy project.
His solution, if you can set up GB Energy, a nationalised power company, join the dots, renationalise the grid.
If the private companies that own the private grid, so UKPN or wherever you may be, haven't got the ability from shareholders to invest, it needs to be done by government.
That means take it into public
nationalisation,
ownership. Nationalise it?
Yeah, nationalise it. Same as the railways.
No sign yet of the government doing that. Now, if you think this site's big, think again. Up the road, this area could soon house a vast solar array bigger by far than the entire nearest town of Newmarket. Opposed by every local and regional council and every local MP, it's one of 3 gigantic solar projects recently green-lighted. Ed Miliband's energy revolution is underway.
The local councils united against it, the MPs united against it.
Protesters say their campaign against the developer Sunica could go all the way to the Supreme Court.
It's versatile, you know, it goes on rooftops, it can go on car parks, it can go alongside roads and railways, and that's exactly what our partners in Europe are doing. You know, in France, they mandate car parks with over 80 spaces need to have solar on them. So there are really good ways of delivering solar.
This is absolutely vast. It's taking over 2,000 acres out of food production, and it is just the beginning of what we're going to see in terms of solar in this country.
The developers Sunica say it's a nationally significant part of our future green energy. Nothing in the energy mix comes faster or cheaper than solar, but grid problems and opposition lie ahead for GB Energy. We want it, but where and how? So the Prime Minister knows, therefore, that signing today's deal on offshore wind is the easy bit.
Well, earlier today, I spoke to the Energy Secretary, Ed Miliband, just as they had launched this new partnership between GB Energy and Crown Estate to develop offshore wind farms. And I asked him what problem he's trying to solve.
We've had a terrible cost of living crisis in Britain over the last couple of years, and that comes from our dependence on fossil fuels. Both fossil fuels that we produce at home and those that we import because they're sold and priced on the world market. So dictators and petrostates can control those prices. So our mission on which we were elected, our mandate, was to become a clean energy superpower. And Great British Energy, our new publicly owned energy company, is one of the tools to drive forward to that clean energy that we need, offshore wind, onshore wind, solar, to give us that energy security, lower bills and good jobs that we need for the future.
But what will this invest in that the private sector wouldn't have done by itself anyway?
Well, look, take, for example, some of the leading edge technologies, floating offshore wind. So we have fixed offshore wind in this country, and that's a pretty mature market, but floating offshore wind is a new technology. Now, what Great British Energy can do is it can invest in that technology of the future in partnership with the private sector to, in the terminology, de-risk those investments. So the state putting some money behind this gives some assurance to the private sector. They're more likely to come in. It can generate a return. So it's not just a grant, it's actually taking a stake in that investment, giving a return to the taxpayer over time.
So your ambition is to be a publicly owned energy generator?
A publicly owned clean energy generator,
yeah.
Definitely. It is good. That is what it's going to be.
But it's not going to be a retailer. It's not going to be like EDF.
It's not a retailer. It's a generator. And you know, look, we're not going to become Ørsted or the generation arm of EDF overnight. But that is the long-term vision. And, you know, in 5 years, we'll make progress. Hopefully, if we're elected again in 5 years' time, we can make further progress. And it's a different way of thinking about how Britain approaches these issues. It is saying ownership matters. It is saying we want to generate wealth for the country.
Well, when you talk about generating wealth, this company is going to make profits.
Yeah.
National, Crown Estate already makes $1 billion quid or so.
Yeah.
What's going to happen to it? I mean, because if it goes into Treasury, it's like a stealth tax. Are taxpayers going to get a bit of it back?
I'll be discussing that with Rachel Reeves. Look, so some of it will go into GB Energy to reinvest. Some of it will come back to the taxpayer. You know, it will it will generate wealth. Some of it will go back to the Treasury. It will generate wealth for the country, which we can reinvest, not just in energy, but in public services and so on.
We don't get a dividend.
Well, look, this is all, we're developing these plans, but we certainly want people to see benefits from Great British Energy. So one of the other things it's going to be doing is investing around the country in clean energy projects. And we want to see local people near those clean energy projects get a benefit from that. So there's lots of things we can do with this income, but it's income for the country.
Is the King going to make money out of this?
The King won't make money out of the GB Energy investments. His Majesty gets a share of the Crown Estate investments and will continue to do so. That's negotiated with the Treasury. But money that Great British Energy puts in will come back to Great British Energy and to the taxpayer.
So this means that your 2030 target to decarbonise electricity is looking very ambitious. I mean, I've yet to meet anyone who thinks you've got a good chance of hitting it.
Well, you've met me.
Well,
and Chris,
you're confident, are you?
I am confident.
That you will definitely hit, and we can judge you on that.
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, Chris Stark, who used to run the Climate Change Committee, Greg Jackson, who runs Octopus, Patrick Vallance, who did the Vaccines Task Force. It is about a different way of doing things. You know, in our first 3 weeks in office, we've lifted the onshore wind ban. I've approved more solar projects than in the whole history, nationally consented projects, than the whole history of the last government. We are proceeding at pace. It is really challenging, but I'm confident we can do it.
Have you banned new drilling licenses in oil and gas?
We're not going to issue. We've got a clear policy, which is not to issue new licenses for oil and gas. That was our manifesto commitment, and we're going to implement that.
Are you cutting off, to spite your face and doing that?
No.
Are you turning down, profitable energy sources?
No, we're not. Look, we're going to keep existing oil and gas fields open for their lifetime. It's very important to have a balanced transition in the North Sea. But the reason why new oil and gas licenses won't make a difference to us is they don't cut the price. They don't make any difference at all to the price of energy. We're far better off putting our resources, putting our effort into the clean energy of the future, which we do control, which can bring down bills.
Given how you said this is a long-term project, you promised that energy bills would come down by £300 or more by the end of this Parliament. How's that going to happen as a result of this?
Well, look,
or is that going to happen anyway?
We stand by the idea that for energy security and for lower bills, there is only one answer, which is clean energy. Because, look, energy bills are forecast to rise in the autumn. That's not because of anything the government's doing, it's because the gas price internationally is going up. We don't control that. What this is doing is, to coin a phrase, taking back control and saying, look, we as a clean energy superpower can control the price because we set the price of wind power and nuclear and so on. So we set the price, and that's the way we get control and can have lower bills.
Ed Miliband, thank you very much.
Thank you.